ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم. We begin by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We seek His aid and His assistance. We ask His forgiveness. We seek refuge in Allah from the evil within our own selves. And we seek refuge in Allah from the consequences of our evil actions. Whomsoever Allah guides, nobody can misguide. And whomsoever Allah misguides, nobody can guide. I testify that there is no deity worthy of worship except Allah alone, without any partner. And I testify that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is his slave and his messenger. So yeah, my name is AbdulMalek Faizan. Most people know me as Faizan. Yeah, bro. So what would you like to know?
So the first question, pretty easy one, yeah. So the first question is, how was your life before Islam? What did you do? And then, at what point did you feel like there's something not right?
Okay. So obviously, inshallah, I'm going to try to keep the details to a minimum. But I grew up in, my family's originally from Jamaica. So I grew up in Sharo, mashallah. Sharo is predominantly a Muslim area. So alhamdulillah, I was exposed to Muslims, but I wasn't necessarily exposed to Islam at that time. I grew up in a default Christianity household, I would say. You know, Jamaicans are very spiritual people, so I would kind of say I was default Christian, but alhamdulillah, I never believed that Isa was God or anything like that. But I never really kind of looked into my religion and validated my religion per se. It was just the default. I wasn't really thinking about God or anything. I was just kind of, you know, living the life of the dunya, if you like.
Because in school you wasn't too bad. He wasn't like throwing chairs at teachers and stuff like that. You were just you like to have a laugh.
Yeah. I would say I was more of a nuisance, if anything. I wasn't really like a bad kid in terms of like, you know, one of those kids that's, you know, swearing at teachers or doing the mad stuff. I was more like, you know, a bit of a joker. Alhamdulillah, I'm still a bit of a joker now, but I was more like, I used to just enjoy making people laugh, and alhamdulillah, I always enjoyed like good vibes. I always enjoyed making people smile and laugh. So I got a bit of a reputation as a joker, mashallah. So but I wasn't really contemplating about that. So if you ask me what my religion was, I would say I was more like I definitely believed in God, but if I had to choose a religion, I would probably say Christianity.
And you said there were plenty of people in Charo, and probably some people here in Charo. Anybody from Charo? MashaAllah. Repping Charo, yeah?
MashaAllah. A lot of the brothers are here tonight.
So you said you were exposed to some Muslim brothers, but there was no mention of Islam. There was no mention of da'wah. It was not a thing. They were just, how did you see Islam and how did you understand Islam? Because of the actions of your friends who probably never told you. They're Muslims by name, but never told.
No, so to be fair to the brothers, like obviously, you know, I would say I was exposed to, you know, terminology. So I was exposed to like the slang, wallahi, you know, assalamu alaikum, mashallah, inshallah, astaghfirullah, etc. But I would say I didn't really understand the severity or the importance of it, because like obviously, you know, actions speak louder than words, innit? So you can imagine maybe like if you've got, I don't know, if you're like a father and you're telling your son not to smoke, but you're saying it with a cigarette in your hand, it's not gonna have the same effect as saying something without them seeing you doing it. Do you understand? So obviously, you know, the dunya is the dunya, the reality is reality, you know. At the end of the day, we're all striving, and nobody's perfect. So, you know, may Allah guide us all. At that point, it was just kind of like, you know, I guess brothers were just, you know, was lacking guidance at that time, I feel like.
I want to pass on to the Shiehk. I want to pause here, just a point to reflect. When you're a Muslim, and sometimes you feel like you're far away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when you're a group, probably non-Muslims, you want to give da'wah, but you feel like you can't because you're in a position where you feel like you're not even a Muslim, you're not a representative of Muslim. What would you advise the youth who are in those circles? Do you think they should speak up? What is the action they should take?
Bismillah. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, when He honored us with Islam, this great honor that He granted us, one must take pride in it and must show it in his actions, even if it is minimal, very little. Because that little that you are doing, Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala will put barakah in it. And it is your actions that are more effective than any statement that you can utter. And that's why the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam, when he first started to give da'wah in Mecca, what is the first evidence that he used to prove his prophethood and his message? He said to Quraysh, when he called them on Mount Safa, he said to them, if I was to say to you, after they all came thinking that the huge issue, if I was to say to you that there's an army behind this valley coming to attack you, would you believe me? They said, of course we would believe you. We have never been able to lie. Right? His actions, he was known for that. So then he, alayhi salatu salam, said to them, I am the one from Allah Ta'ala to you. قُولُوا لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهُ تُفْلِحُونَ. Right? They are testified to his great character. And if the Muslim is like that, he is one who he tries to better his conduct and his character for the sake of Allah Ta'ala, that is Islam. Because character, akhlaq, mannerism, it is not only being good to the people, as many people think. Akhlaq, character, having good character. As the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam said, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. I was sent to perfect good mannerism. What is that? It is that you perfect your relationship with Allah and the creation both. If one does not have a relationship with Allah Ta'ala and he has a good relationship with the creation, he does not have akhlaq. Likewise the opposite. If one has a good relationship with Allah Ta'ala, but his relationship with the creation is lacking, he does not have akhlaq. The evidence is in the hadith the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam was asked about it. This woman, she used to pray a lot of voluntary prayers and fast a lot of voluntary fasts. What was the catch? She used to harm her neighbors. And her relationship with Allah is good, but she's harmful to the creation. The Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam said, "Hiya fi nar," she's in hellfire. And the opposite, in the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha, she asked the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam about her relative, Abdullah ibn Jad'an, who was a man in Jahiliyyah. She said, Ya Rasulullah, inna Abdullah ibn Jad'an kana yasilu rahim wa yut'al masakin. فهل ينفعه ذلك? He's already passed away. He used to keep ties with the king. He used to feed those who were in need. He used to help people and so on. Right? He was good to the creation. But he was not only believing in Allah Ta'ala. She said, is that going to benefit him, Ya Rasulullah? He said, لا ينفعه ذلك فإنه لم يقل يوم رب اغفر لي خطيئتي يوم الدين. That's not benefiting because he never believed in Allah. He never said one day, my Lord forgive my sins on Qiyamah. Right? So one must affect both relationship, the one with Allah and the one with creation, in order to be one who has good character. And with that, one will be effective in his da'wah without even speaking. It's called the silent da'wah. And when Allah Ta'ala, He sees sincerity in your heart, because people have shortcomings, no one's perfect. But you're doing the best of your ability. And Allah sees that you're sincere, Allah Ta'ala will put barakah in what you're doing and allow the people to only see that which is good and conceal your faults. And that will be barakah. That people will embrace Islam through you, and Allah will guide people through you. That is what the believers should strive to do. Allah A'lam.
Jazakallah khair. This da'wah by actions. I'm digressing, but just a little story. You know, there was a guy that I was speaking to, and he became a Muslim. And I asked him, what brought you to Islam? What made you search about Islam? He goes, you know, the salam that you do between your brothers, like Assalamu alaikum, and you hug them, and some Arabs just give a kiss. He goes, I've never seen that anywhere. It's the brotherhood that you have. And that was the start of his journey, subhanAllah. So the smallest things Don't underestimate them. Just do it. Just say it. It's not big, but it could be massively effective to the person in front of you. Going back to you, Faisal. Does anybody want to ask any questions, Faisal? Shiehk, do you want to ask any questions? I'm going to be the one who's asking all the questions.
Let the audience ask questions. I've spoken all day today.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brother, after embracing Islam, you've just stated that in your household we are not believers in Allah and in Christianity. How did they take your embracing Islam to accept you that you are still a Christian? And did you give dawah to them so they could also embrace Islam? It was a question, inshallah.
That's a beautiful question. In terms of how my family reacted to me embracing Islam, so at first, because to be honest with you, my journey to Islam was it was a long stage basically. So at one point in my life, I was a prisoner to the image and to the opinion of people. So that kind of, at the beginning of my deen, passed over into Islam. So when I actually reverted and accepted Islam, I was still a prisoner to, pleasing people, living life to please people. So I actually put it on Snapchat, I don't have social media anymore, but I put it on Snapchat at that time. And so I didn't even tell my parents. My parents found out from a video on Snapchat. So my mom, she's like, may Allah guide her and allow her to accept Islam, inshallah. But, she's a Sky News advocate, you know what I mean? So every day she watches Sky News, so her exposure to Islam is that of what the media puts out. So you can imagine her perception of what Islam is. So when I first accepted Islam, she called me, she said, I can't believe what you've done. Who are you hanging around with, etc. And my grandma, she's a very strong Christian Caribbean woman. So I won't go into too much detail, but you can imagine her opinion as well of what she thought was going to happen. I remember she actually said at one point, that I'm going to be going to Meadowhall and blowing up Meadowhall because I really feel like, but yeah, I think that was like the initial phase. But alhamdulillah, when because of the how I was before, I didn't really have any objective morality. I didn't have any accountability for anything wrong that I was doing. So I kind of had I was a slave to my desires. So I didn't have any respect for parents, anything like that. But as I accepted Islam, I understood the importance, alhamdulillah, of being respectful to those around you, being respectful to your neighbors, being respectful to your parents especially. So because they saw the change in my behavior, at one point my mom, she was like, how come you're praying and fasting all the time? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do this before when you was Christian? Well, how come you're praying and fasting all the time? Alhamdulillah, when I'm at home, she sees me going to Fajr. I do it for the sake of Allah, of course, but I try to make sure that I always pray Fajr in the masjid. She sees me getting up early, making me do it early in the morning. She's thinking, she's like, how are you getting up so early? You never used to do this before. And I remember recently, I said to her, Mom, what are the pros and cons of me being a Muslim? So she said, the cons of you being a Muslim is that you wasn't raised a Muslim. So you wasn't born a Muslim, you wasn't raised a Muslim. So that's the only con. And she said the pros are, you don't party, you stay out of trouble, you don't go to nightclubs, you don't do any of these sinful behaviors anymore. You're much more respectful, you have more manners, you pray, you fast. So alhamdulillah, she's able to see the goodness in me being a Muslim. And she's actually said, she's happy that I'm a Muslim because it means that I'm staying out of trouble, etc. And alhamdulillah, recently, the last few Eids, she's cooked to me halal food, big feast. She called it My Christmas. I said, Mum, it doesn't really work like that. Yeah, it was like, that's how she described it, but mashallah, may Allah bless her. So she kind of, she's seen the goodness in me being a Muslim, alhamdulillah. In terms of my father, his initial approach, alhamdulillah, I think I was kind of blessed with my inquisitiveness and my wisdom from my father. So, he, to the extent that my father actually, he's on holiday in Jamaica now, he's taking the Quran with him. He's giving dawah to his Jamaica family. He's not Muslim yet, but we read Quran every Sunday, we read Quran. And, from what I've been able, from the information that Allah is blessing you with, the knowledge that Allah is blessing you with, that I've been able to share with him, he said, wow, like every time he watches like a conversation between Christians and Muslims, or every time he hears everything in Islam, there's always an answer for everything. I think that's one of the beauties of Islam, is that there's always an answer from, how to eat, how to sleep, how to walk, how to talk, everything, because it's the perfected religion, isn't it? So it covers everything. So inshallah, he said to me before that he doesn't want to be a Muslim. He's asked me how does he become a Muslim? He has a dreadlocks. He said, can I be a Muslim with dreadlocks and stuff like that? So inshallah, Allah will guide him and guide all my family. I think they kind of accepted it now on the basis of it making me into a better person. So they kind of see the goodness in me being a Muslim.
May Allah guide all those who you love to Islam, inshallah. So just going back a step, so you were telling me that you were chasing the material life, okay? And then you said to me just before we came out, you said you felt some emptiness. And then what happened? How did you feel? What was your mental state?
So taking myself back to a time when I was ignorant, I think, how society is constructed is that, we like nice things, I think especially within, the black and Asian community and other communities, I think we feel we have an inferiority complex. So we don't necessarily add value to what's inside our bodies and inside our minds. We have to validate that by what we put on our bodies. So of course there's nothing wrong with liking nice things. Part of being a Muslim is to dress nice and to like nice things, is to keep up your appearance, etc. But I would say there was at one point in my life where I was a slave to the material aspect of life, in terms of I remember I had a BMW car, and I remember applying my whole life to get this car. I would do whatever it takes, to the extent that I was actually broke. I was actually financially struggling, but as long as I was portraying that I had money, as long as I was portraying that, as long as people thought I had money, I was content with that. You get me? And it was I still felt empty, because the thing is with these material things is that once you're chasing the dunya, you can never ever succeed, because it's they always move the finish line. So for example, you might be driving the 21 plate, Mercedes, BMW, whatever, and then you feel sweet, you're pulling up to the traffic lights, you're looking across to the other guy, he's got the 19 plate, you're feeling good and that, mashallah, and then the 22 plate one comes out. And when the 22 plate one comes out now, this one's got a little flashing light inside, or the steering wheel shaped different, or there's something different about it. And all of a sudden now you don't feel as proud, you don't feel as content with what you have, because you feel you've got the old shape. Same with clothing, I remember, in my times of Jahiliyyah, when I was, misguided and living a particular life, whatever, it was true religion jeans was the big thing, you know what I mean? I would do whatever it takes to make sure I had some nice pair of trues on. Now these jeans are, if I'm wearing these jeans, people are gonna say, my fashion is dead, it's shocking, you know what I mean? But at that point in my life, I was slaving myself to live that particular life. And it's the same with like, I would say I was chasing the dunya in terms of like, for example, I had like money, for example, but because I was getting cash in hand and because it was coming in every day, you don't value it. You know what I mean? It's like for example, we go to the tap in the sink when we make a glass of water, or when we go to have a shower and we run the pipe. Yeah, and we make sure the water's running for a good minute before we get that fresh water, or when we're in the shower, we'll make sure it's running and you know, it warms up nice. But subhanAllah, if we was living in an environment where water wasn't guaranteed to come tomorrow, or hot water wasn't guaranteed to come, we'd be putting it in buckets, you know, we'd be valuing it more. But you lose value of things because you take things for granted. So I think, you know, it was like I was applying my life to all these things, and I still felt so empty. I still felt so depressed. You know, and it's a worse feeling because when you're in that state of depression or when you're in that state of emptiness and you don't have all these things, it's like, oh, once I get these things, I'll feel happier, innit? But when you have these things, it's like, what else is there to do? You know, you're lost for ideas because you've applied all your life to get these things and now you've got them and you still have that emptiness inside your heart. So, yeah, I was kind of, I was searching for something and it was like a good feeling. Yeah.
Shiehk, you spoke about material things, and you know, in this dunya, we sometimes lose ourselves, and we forget what is our real purpose. And we work, the overtime, we do stupid stuff sometimes to get money, just for the material stuff. What's the advice for those people who are chasing material stuff and forgetting the main purpose?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وابتغ فيما آتاك الله الدار الآخرة ولا تنس نصيبك من الدنيا وأحسن كما أحسن الله إليك ولا تبغ الفساد في الأرض إن الله لا يحب المفسدين. Allah gives us that verse in the Quran. Allah says, فيما آتاك الله الدار الآخرة. Seek that which Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala has gifted you in the heavenly hereafter. And then look at this. ولا تنس نصيبك من الدنيا. The word in the Quran, it is immaculate. When I say to someone, make sure you don't forget to do this. Make sure you don't forget to do this. What does that mean? This is not a priority for you, right? Allah says, do not forget your portion of the dunya. Meaning that it is not your priority. The akhirah is your priority, and you take from the dunya only that which you require. This is successful hereafter. The Sahaba, they were those who, amongst some of those who were rich, extremely wealthy, multi-millionaires. But what did they do with that wealth? They used it for the path of Allah, the religion of Allah, the hereafter. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, من جهز جيش العسرة له الجنة. Whoever prepares the army of Usra is going to Tabuk, he will have Jannah, i.e. the one who sponsors it. And now radiallahu anhu, he paid for all the horses, all the camels, the weapons and Sahaba taken. Abdurrahman al-Auf, he brought thousands of his, over 40,000 of their money. Abu Bakr brought all his wealth. Umar brought half his wealth. Why? Because that wealth, they were not attached to it. It was in their hands and not in their hearts. And that is how they believe it. There's nothing wrong with being rich. There's nothing wrong with possessing everything in this world. Nothing wrong with that. But the moment it enters into your heart and you're attached to it, and you only live for that, that's the way you do it. That is the mindset of the believer. Allah.
You recite the Quran beautifully, you don't want to stop. SubhanAllah. So you said you were chasing material stuff, and you've got everything, but you still felt empty. You felt depressed. What led you to search for Islam?
To be honest, I wasn't really searching for Islam. I was searching for a purpose and searching for the truth. I think it kind of comes down to like, you're created for a purpose and finding that purpose. So I kind of like I said, I had that belief in God. So I kind of had like, the fitrah of what Allah blesses us with, but no direction, no conviction. So because I already believed in God, it kind of eliminated a few other religions straight away. So obviously it eliminated like Hinduism. I didn't believe in like millions of gods. It eliminated like Buddhism as well. So I was kind of left with like Christianity, Judaism and Islam. Narrowed it down to 3. So Judaism now, you can't convert to becoming a Jew. Yeah, it's not something that's accessible to everyone. It's not something that equality is represented in, if you like. So that didn't really appeal to me because I thought, God, regardless of your color of your skin, regardless of your background, God should always be accessible. The Creator, the Almighty, will be accessible to anyone, regardless of wherever you're from. So then I was left with Christianity and Islam. So I didn't really know much about Islam at that point, but I knew about Christianity. I thought I knew about Christianity. But when I started to look into Christianity, and I started to look into like the preservation of the Bible, how there's so many different Bibles, how they believe that Isa alayhi salam is God, etc. It didn't really sit right with me. You know what I mean? So that kind of got removed, and then I was left with Islam, but I didn't really know much about Islam. So I started to look into Islam. I started to like research the stories of the prophets, and I was shocked because my understanding of Islam prior to that was that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was some Pakistani man. Allah was a Pakistani god, and I never really knew anything about Islam, so that was my idea of what Islam was. So once I started to look into Islam, and I learned about Musa, I learned about Noah's Ark, all this stuff, I was shocked. I was thinking, it's in Islam as well, what's going on? You know what I mean? So, I started to go to the Jummah at that point. This is before I became Muslim. And I remember a funny story. So obviously you go to Jummah, you pray your 2/3 prayers. But all the brothers advised me was that when you go to Jummah, just copy the guy next to you. So I was like, alright, cool, I'll just copy the guy next to me. So I've gone in now, stood next to a guy. So obviously he's prayed his 3rd prayers, prayed Jummah. Now he's praying his Sunnah prayers. But I'm still copying him. So this guy's looking at me, what's this guy doing? This guy alright? You know what I mean? Looking at me like I'm a madman, but mashallah, may Allah bless that guy, But I started to go to Jummah prayers, and then I remember coming across this was still at that point of Jahil. I was still at the battle between like the dunya and guidance at that point, but that was at the beginning of the end of the Omi, if you like.
You told me the story of being in a taxi.
Yeah, so we'll come to that. So basically, after that, I started to look into Islam, and I come across the autobiography of Malcolm X by Alex Haley. MashaAllah, if you've never read that book, I'd recommend that book. It's a very inspirational book to read. And again, at that point, when I got that book, that was just an image. It was like an image thing. So it was like, let me show people that I can do road and still read books and this, that, yeah. So I never really read it, but then I remember I was having some issues with like uni and whatever. I ended up getting suspended from uni, so added to the school, the college, had to add uni to the list as well, mashallah, yeah. So I got suspended from uni, and then I remember coming back from London, and I was reading a book, and subhanallah, I was captivated by the story. Like, I've never read a book as an adult. The last time I read books was probably like, Harry Potter in like primary school or something, you know what I mean? So when I was reading this book, you know, subhanAllah, I was captivated by his story and stuff, and I was glued in. And, you know, reading Malcolm X's autobiography, it kind of made me question the identity of myself, the identity of the black man, because I feel like how society constructs the image of the black man is that, for example, let's say you're in school and you're acting a certain way, yeah? Let's say somebody who's white, for example, is speaking a certain way, dressing a certain way, swearing, listening to a certain type of music, they would say this individual is acting black. And if you have a young black man in school who's aspiring to, you know, achieve academically or work legitimate halal earning or speak eloquently, they would say this individual is acting white. You understand? So it was like, you almost feel like a snake to your own people if you don't portray yourself or carry yourself in a certain way. And that was what this book kind of highlighted, that, you know, we're Muslim first, understand? And it's like, yeah, it kind of made me just realize that I need to, you know, educate myself, and it gave me a thirst for knowledge. So that was like the beginning of the, you know, the enlightenment phase, if you like, me starting to educate myself on my history and starting to educate myself on, like, you know, for example, even the Islamic influence in the Caribbean, in Jamaica. So for example, in Jamaican slang, you have a term called jinno, yeah? You call someone a jinno. Basically, it means that term means like somebody who's deceitful, somebody who's trying to do you over, whatever. Is a jinno, yeah? Jinno, yeah. It came from the jinn, al-jinn, because you know, the jinn are going to be deceitful now. So I was like, you know, wow, like jinno, like, you know, I've been calling people jinno my whole life, but they don't even know. You know, I mean, some people call me a jinno, alhamdulillah. Trying to change that, you know what I mean? But yeah, like just seeing like the Islamic influence in so many different aspects of my history was, you know, it was enlightening. So I remember being in university, you know, mashallah, you know, my time management has never been the best. So I have mercy on you for, you know, being late on, you know.
My latest is not particular.
I'm only joking. But no, yeah, you know, I've always been a procrastinator. So I was actually doing an all-nighter in the library, doing an assignment, and just out of respect, I would always, like, if I saw an Asian guy, because at this point, again, to me, Pakistanis are the only Muslims, you know, that I know, the Somalis and Pakistanis, yeah. So every Asian guy I saw with a beard, I would always say Assalamu alaikum. It did get kind of awkward sometimes, because I remember saying Assalamu alaikum to a Sikh guy. The guy heard me, I'm thinking, well, this guy is rude, man. The guy didn't reply with salam. Yeah, anyways, I was in a taxi, and yeah, I said Assalamu alaikum to this brother, and, you know, subhanAllah, you know, Allah knows best.
So was this what you're just about to say? Was this like a wake-up call?
This event.
So, yeah.
Now this is like the yeah, it was a wake-up call. It was a wake-up call, to be honest. This was like the final push that I needed. You know, may Allah bless this brother. This brother now is getting ajr for every deed that I do, and I don't even know his name. I don't know where he is. Nothing, you know. But Allah, for whatever reason, Allah guided this brother into my life. It could have been anyone, but it was him. So I've gone in the taxi now, so I said Assalamu alaikum. So this brother said Walaikum salam. But at this point, you know, I'm just like a typical road man, you know, tracksuit, hood up, everything. So I don't know what made this brother ask me, but he was like, you know, Masha, he said, brother, are you Muslim? So I'm like, nah, I'm not Muslim, but at this point I'm trying to stutter in a minute. So I'm like, not Muslim, but you know, I know mashallah, I know inshallah, I know assalamu alaikum. You know, I'm telling him all these words and that, I know I'm saying, I go to Jummah prayer. He's like, mashallah, brother, mashallah, but he's very good. But he goes, but you're not a Muslim. You know, he's going, there's not really any point you going to Jummah prayers, and not really any point you doing all these things. Because what's the point? You're a man now, innit? You need to make that decision if you want to be a Muslim or not. If you was a child, then, you know, you're not held accountable for your wrong, you're mature now, innit? So if you was to die, you know, in order for Allah to forgive you, Allah would have to forgive the whole of mankind because Allah is not unjust, you know? So I was like, who the hell did this guy think he's talking to? You get me? This guy doesn't know anything about me. I know mashallah, I know inshallah. You know what I mean? And I was actually really annoyed to the extent that I was thinking about it all night, you know? I was actually thinking about it all night. It really bothered me. And I remember at this point I started to watch like a lot of Islamic videos and stuff. So I remember watching a khutbah and it was about how, you know, the timing of Allah is perfect. And how, you know, sometimes it might be that you're with a friend, or it might be that you go to Jummah prayer and, you know, the sermon is on a particular topic that has been bothering you all week. And it's so precise to the extent that you actually feel like the Imam is talking directly to you because the point is hitting your heart that much. And that's because Allah has guided that person to say that particular thing at that particular time because He knew that's when it would touch your heart the most. And I was just like, wow, like, this is true. So, you know, I was like, he's right, like, what am I waiting for? Because in my head, you know, like I said, a lot of the brothers when I was young, they say, yeah, when are you going to take your Shahada, you know? But I didn't even know what Shahada was. I used to be like, yeah, when I'm 18. Then when I got to 18, it was like when I'm 21. Then when I'm 21, it was like when I'm 25. And it just kept on going up to the extent where I just think, you know what, I'm just going to live my life, 65, take my Shahada, job's a good end kind of thing, you know what I mean? So, yeah, like, I just thought, you know, this guy's right. What am I waiting for? Like, I spoke to a few brothers who were like, you know what, bro, go for it. You know, you're never going to be perfect. It's, you know, it's better to kind of take each harder and try your best at that point, isn't it? So, at this point, I didn't know that you could just go to the mosque whenever you wanted. So it was Wednesday. I never forget, it was a Wednesday, and I waited till Friday to go to the mosque to tell the imam that I wanted to take my shahada. It wasn't at the mosque, it was at the university prayer hall. So I've gone to the prayer hall now, and I said to the guy, you know, bro, I want to be a Muslim. So he's like, what? You want to be a Muslim? I'm like, bro, what are you waiting for? I want to be a Muslim. You know what I mean? This guy, I'm sticking it on him kind of thing. And he's like, okay, he's like, do you want to go to the big masjid? We can do it for everyone. I'm like, nah, because this point I don't know what I have to do. So I'm thinking I'm going to have to, you know, get baptized with some bar, do cartwheels, I don't know what I'm going to have to do, you know what I mean? So I'm saying, nah, bro, let's just do it quickly here. SubhanAllah, and then, I took my shahada, and then, that was the beginning of the journey, man.
Was there a takbir?
No, there was only about, SubhanAllah, there was only about 4 or 5 people there.
Should we do a takbir now?
No,
Allah Akbar! Allah Akbar! Well, that was weak. Is everybody awake? Oh, that was weak. Say again, it's on WhatsApp. Takbir! Allah Akbar! Just a point there to reflect on, subhanAllah. It's the hesitation. You know, even if you're a Muslim or non-Muslim, it's a hesitation of, I'll do it tomorrow. You know, I'm doing this, but I'll do it tomorrow. I'm doing this sin, but tomorrow I'll stop. And then tomorrow comes, and then you're after tomorrow. And like you said, 18, 19, 21. What is the advice for someone who's in that situation, who wants to make the change, but is still hesitating?
Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam was dua that he used to make. He used to say, Allahumma inni as'aluka al-azimata ala al-mushrik. Oh Allah, I ask you for decisiveness and determination upon guidance. To not be hesitant when it comes to guidance and goodness, and to hasten to it straight away. And he, alayhi salatu wasalam, he would seek refuge in Allah Ta'ala from laziness and procrastination and delay matters that are important. And he told us alayhi salatu wasalam that procrastination and delay matters that are crucially important. They are shaitan. It is shaitan who is plotting against you in order to destroy you. So once you know that shaitan is against you, you want to delay this as much as possible so that you can end your life in a way that's not pleasing to Allah Azza wa Jal. You have to work against the plot. You have to be intelligent. And mu'min, case of Prophet, the believer, he's intelligent, aware, conscious. He's not fooled. not fooled twice by the same trick. But we constantly get tricked by the same trick. We're fooled by the same trick. Again, لكن بشيطان نفس. But I don't blame anyone. Why don't I blame anyone? Because shaitan's a alim. You know he's a alim scholar. Iblis, big scholar. He's been about long time. He was there since before Adam alayhi salam. All of knowledge he's been accumulating, but for the wrong reasons. Right? But you, Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala specified you, said to Inna Shaytan lakum aduwa fattakhiduhu aduwa. Shaytan is an enemy, take him as an enemy. Shayateen are two types, ya jama'ah. We have shayateen al-ins or shayateen al-jinn. Jinnah. What do you call it? Jinnah. We have shayateen al-jinnah and shayateen al-ins of mankind. As for shayateen al-jinn, you know them, they're the ones that you can't see. Shayateen al-ins, those of mankind, sometimes they're worse than the ones of jinn kind. He's your friend. He's meant to be your friend. But he's the one calling you towards evil, misguiding, pushing you and motivating you to do that evil and displease Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. No doubt that he's a big shaitan. Big shaitan. Right? Alhamdulillah, I say that, in the time that we were in lockdown, Corona lockdown, may Allah save us from all lockdown. But during that time, we had our first Ramadan lockdown, right, last year. What did the Messenger ﷺ tell us? That when Ramadan comes, the shayateen, they are shackled up, right? They are locked up. But what was special about that Ramadan was that shayateen, ins and jinn were locked up. It was great ni'mah. Shayateen and jinn locked up by Allah Ta'ala. As for the ins, both Johnson locked them up. Stay at home, so shayateen, sometimes they are the ones who misguide you. You have to be aware. You have to be conscious of that. And don't delay anything that is going to be beneficial towards you. Instead of rahmatullah alayhi, we have the mindset they would say that I consider every moment that I'm alive my last moment. If you live like that, that it's your last moment, you shall not delay a single matter. If you were told right now that you have 1 hour to live, what will you do? That hour that you have left, you're going to utilize it to do all the khair against your jinnah. So that khairat that you're doing, who has guaranteed you that you have the next hour left? That you have the next 2 hours left? That you have tomorrow? That you have a week, a month, a year? No one has guaranteed you. الموت يأتي يا غافلا عن العمل وغره طول الأمل. الموت يأتي بغتة والقبر صندوق العمل. He said, oh, you who's heedless of actions. He doesn't want to do anything. And he's been deluded by hoping to live long. He thinks, I'm going to live 60, 67, then I will do my shahada. Good at it. Go out of the bank. لا. الموت يأتي بغتة. Death will come suddenly. And your grave, it is the box of your deeds. You fill it with the deeds that you want to see on the Qiyamah. So you have to make that choice. There's Imam ibn Tabi'in. His name was Hammad ibn Salama, rahmatullahi alayhi. It was said about him that if it was said to Hammad ibn Salama that you're going to die today is your last day in the dunya, he would not have any more righteous deeds to do. What does that mean? Because he lived any moment like he was going to be lost. And that's what the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam, he would say, for instance, Salah, he would say, Salli salatan wadda. Pray the prayer of one who's departed to a big farewell. You say goodbye. That's how you want to be when it comes to your needs.
Very helpful. So, going back now, mashallah, you made your shahada. There was no takbir, but mashallah, the guys here did takbir here. Shiehk just spoke about the companions, people of influence, your friends. You still had those friends, and now you become Muslim. How did you manage to leave that environment? How did you manage to stay away from the fitna or the jinns of the ins in your life? Or what are they called again?
Jinns,
Yeah.
In terms of my companions, I think during my journey to Islam, I kind of started to detach away from people anyway, kind of thing. So it was almost a secluded time, you know. Even when you look at like the story of the Anbiya, a lot of their revelation came during times of reflection when they was by themselves, when they was, you know, Ibrahim, Muhammad, Musa, you know. And I feel like sometimes, like when you just seclude and, you know, contemplate on life. So I was kind of by myself, to be honest, and you know, it was obviously the qadr of Allah that when I did revert, the next day it was Discover Islam Week at uni. So the Islamic Society had like a meal on the next day. So the brother was like, oh, mashallah, you took your shahada, take my number, come to the meal the next day. And then, yeah, I made some friends there. And then, yeah, these brothers kind of taught me how to pray. Alhamdulillah, I learned Al-Fatiha in 40 minutes. Yeah, I was eager, so because that's like I said, at that point I was trying to prove myself that, you know, a lot of people were saying to me like, you know, there's no way you can be a Muslim. He's a Muslim, no chance. And I was very keen to like prove them wrong. You know, obviously we do things for the sake of Allah, but at that point I was kind of like trying to prove myself to people. So yeah, I was eager. Alhamdulillah, I have much more of a balance now. But at that point, I learned a lot during that time. So yeah, in terms of like good companions, I think it's you know, even when you look at, you know, the Prophet like his companions didn't always start off as the best of people, but they became the best of people. And I think good companions is very important because, you know, if you're around people, let's say you're around people who, you know, aren't practicing, you know, may Allah bless us and guide us all, it becomes awkward when you talk about certain topics. So let's say, for example, you're around brothers who are struggling to pray 5 times a day, and it's coming to a prayer time. If you bring it up, it becomes awkward, you know. So you're kind of coerced to be. You're kind of coerced to be accepted in the environment that you're in. So, for example, if you're around brothers who are practicing, and you start talking about particular things, these are going about stuff. Oh, bro, don't talk about this. You know, it's haram. You know. Or on the opposite end of the spectrum, if you're around brothers who aren't practicing when it comes to prayer time, or when it comes to you talking about certain things, it becomes awkward. So naturally, you're inclined to want to speak about specific things because you don't want to make it awkward. You don't want to be that awkward point of reference. So hanging around with brothers who motivate you to be a better Muslim is crucial to not just the success in this life, but the success in the next life. Because we see it happen. You know, Allah says in the Quran that, you know, best friends on the day of judgment will be worst enemies, except for those that are righteous. And you see in this life, how many times have you grown with people, you know, they say they're your day ones, they're down to ride for you, and you catch a little case, 2 years, man are singing like the choir, you know what I mean? They're snitching on you. And bro, that's just for 2 years for a judge, you know, in a cell. So what are people gonna be doing when they see the hellfire? You know, what are people gonna be doing when they stood before the Lord? You know? Of course they're gonna be snitching. Do you know what I mean? So it's about hanging around with those that motivate you to do good. Because like the Shiehk said, you know, Shaitan, he's very clever. You know, you can't try and battle Shaitan because he'll treat you like Ronaldinho in his prime, you know, twist you up on. So it's about like understanding that if Shaitan can't get to you, he'll get to those around you. And sometimes it's hard because at the end of the day, You know, these brothers that you've grown with, you know, you've been through things with them, you know, you've been through difficult times. These brothers may have helped you in certain difficult situations, you understand? So it's not always easy to burn bridges with these people, but at the same time you have to understand that, you know, if you're going to if you're trying to head to a particular destination and you've got to get a particular coach to that destination, you're not going to get on the wrong bus that's going in a different direction. You got to get on the passengers who are heading in the same direction as you. You understand? And if they're not heading in that direction, unfortunately, bro, you have to let go. And if somebody's not bringing you closer to Allah, I don't care if you claim to be a day one, your family, that's not a friend. You know what I mean? Friends are those who remind you of Allah, who bring you closer to Allah, and who, you know, correct you when you're wrong, and etc.
So now you said you've detached yourself from the friends who you thought were going to, well, not like-minded, not going to guide you to the right direction. Now you've got Islam. Did you feel that's something big that you have, and you thought, wow, I didn't have this before? Something that you valued?
100%, alhamdulillah. You know, sometimes even when I'm in salah, you know, I'm pondering upon, I'm a Muslim. It's still, to be honest, it's still a very surreal moment. Sometimes it doesn't feel real, like, you know, me being a Muslim. You know what I mean? Like, I'm speaking a different language, I'm learning, I'm communicating directly with my Lord, my Creator. It's not really something you can put into words. Like, to this day, I still remember the first time I ever made salah. The first feeling I had when I made salah, you know, it's not something that you can put into words, bro, or lie, bro. But in terms of like the blessing of Islam, my approach is, there's billions of people in this world, and Allah chose me to be a Muslim. He could have chosen anyone. I remember a funny story. So obviously, like I said, you know, I was a bit of a nuisance growing up. So one of the periods of times that I used to have like a few motorbikes, you know, like pit bikes. Had a few motorbikes. So obviously, there wasn't road legal bikes, yeah. So the best time to ride them was late at night. So you know, I would be riding my motorbikes late at night, waking up my neighbours, astaghfirullah, you know. And my neighbour was a Muslim, and imagine, I lived next to this brother for 20 years. I didn't even know his name. That shows the relationship that I had with this neighbour. So after I reverted, I said I wanted to spend my first Ramadan in Sheffield, you know, be around brothers who I've grown up with, be around my mum, help her to, you know, it's important when your family's not Muslim that you're around them, so they're seeing the actions, they're seeing the changes in you, you know. So I wanted to be around my mum for that point. So I ended up seeing my neighbour in the masjid, but he was like at the front of the rows, right? So I'm at the back. So as I prayed now, Fajr, I've gone home. But I've seen him see me, but I was already gone because it packed in, it was Ramadan, so you know, alhamdulillah, you know, during Ramadan the masjids are filled. So he's knocked my door, so him and my mum don't have the best of relationships because mashallah, my mum is a very empowered woman, yeah? You know, to raise a child like me, it's not easy, so you have to, you know, mashallah, you have to be very stern. So, yeah, mashallah, anybody that knows my mum knows, you know, mashallah, her personality. So, yeah, him and my mum don't really get along that well. So, for him to knock my door, it's already about to get cracking, regardless. It's outside, straight, yeah. But he's knocked my door early morning, 9 a.m., knocked my door. So he's knocked my door, he's like, you know, yeah, your son, he's stuttering. He's like, your son, I came, you know, yeah, I saw, you know. He's trying to basically say to my mum, he's wondering if it was me that he saw in the masjid. So obviously at this point now, I'm wearing my thobe, so I've come downstairs in my thobe, I've got my kufi, I'm fully Islamified out, yeah. So he see me, he said, Allahu Akbar, brother. He said, what happened to you? He said, brother, what happened to you? He said, subhanAllah. I said, brother, I need to take a picture of you. He said, what happened? You get me? So it was, he was so shocked, but like, you know, it's like, subhanAllah, it was just like, you know, I guess, the gift of it was like to the extent where he could not believe that somebody who was as far gone as me could accept Islam. You know what I mean? And it almost makes me even more grateful, because it was like people would never have expected me to become a Muslim. Not even myself. And like I said, I wasn't looking for Islam, I was looking for the truth. That shows the wisdom of the Creator, because the Creator can guide those that you wouldn't even believe He could guide. You understand? And I think, you know, people who were born into Islam, you know, the blessing is beyond description. You know, that Allah has favored you to be born from the womb of a Muslim. You know what I mean? You know, you can't really. It's like, alright, cool. It's like, for example, imagine somebody comes and gives you a Lamborghini, yeah? No, a Bugatti, in fact. Gives you a Bugatti, yeah? On Monday, yeah. Yeah, Bugatti is better, yeah, man. It gives you a Bugatti, yeah? On Monday, you're gonna be like, you're gonna be on Snapchat, Instagram, bro, I just got a Bugatti, you know, you're pulling up on the Monday, you know? Inshallah, you're pulling up to the masjid as well, you know? Monday, yeah? Let's say Tuesday you get this, so it gives you another Bugatti. 2 Bugattis. I'm chilling, now you give your boy a Bugatti. Wednesday another Bugatti. Thursday another Bugatti. By Friday you're thinking, fam, this is long, bro. You know how much petrol I got to put in this Bugatti? You know, you're trying to get rid of them. And I think that's the same with a lot of Muslims who are born into Islam, is that they don't appreciate the gift of Islam, you know? In order for me to come to Islam, SubhanAllah, I had to go through a lot of trials and tribulations. Obviously these were blessings because it brought me to Islam, so I'm grateful for them. But at the point when I was in those tribulations, it was very testing time, you know. I was at a point where I didn't even want to exist anymore, you know what I mean? At a point where I'm literally crying tears because I'm that depressed, you know what I mean? So, you know, my advice is to the brothers, you know, we're all on the same journey. You know, I'm not here trying to preach them or anything like that. You know, this talk itself is a reminder to myself before anybody else. You get me? But if you are a Muslim, you're so blessed, man. Well, I'm a Muslim as well, so we're all blessed, alhamdulillah. But if you was born a Muslim, if you was born from the womb of a Muslim, you know, not just a natural inclination to believe in a Creator, but you actually was raised in a Muslim household, you know, that is the biggest blessing you could ever have. And I feel like because Allah chose me out of billions of people to become a Muslim, you know, I have to be grateful to Him to the best of my ability. You know, I'm not perfect, but I can't be ungrateful because He could have chose anyone, but He chose me. Yeah.
Again, this is a point of reflection. Jazakallah khair. Faizan, AbdulMalek, Faizan touched on it. About we sometimes underappreciate us being born Muslims, us having this great religion. What do you say to those who feel like it's a burden? You know, I have to pray, I have to do this, I have to do that, because I'm a Muslim. What's the advice you would give them?
Exactly what the man said. Don't take this for granted. It's a great gift that many others have been prevented from. You do not realize how valuable a blessing is until you lose it, or when you don't have it. You understand how great and how valuable it is. Alhamdulillah, Allah has blessed perhaps the majority of us that were born into Islam, Muslim households, didn't have to search for Islam. Meaning Allah Ta'ala chose this for you. Now I'm going to mention one hadith of Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam and reflect on this hadith, and that reflection shall be enough. The Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam said, Inna Allah yu'ti dunya man ahabba wa man lam yuhib, wa inna Allah la yu'ti dina illa man ahab. That Allah Ta'ala grants worldly matters to those that He loves and those that He doesn't love. But Allah Azza wa Jalla does not grant deen, Islam, except to those that He loves only. Just the fact that Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala granted you Islam and guidance, Allah Azza wa Jalla loves you. Do not be one that throws that back to Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala due to your lack of gratitude and your appreciation of this great blessing that Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala Al-Wadud has granted you out of His love for you. Show your love to Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala by expressing your gratitude, by fulfilling your servitude to Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, and Allah Azza wa Jalla is shakur, appreciative, and will reward you abundantly for your deeds.
Brothers, we advertised this event will finish at 8:30, so I want to first, we've reached 8:32. Would you allow us just 10 minutes, inshallah, to wrap up? Is that okay? I've seen a lot of people shaking their heads. 1 hour? That's 2 hours, actually. Inshallah, we're on 10 minutes, inshallah. So this is, we said, you've left your friends, you've appreciated Islam, you started practicing, your families, mashallah, barakallah, seen the effects of your deen. Did it get to your head sometimes and you forgot what you're doing it for, and you knew the intentions? And when it comes to people or your job, sometimes you felt like there's some sort of approval that you need to obtain from people. Let's give you an example. Now, mashallah, we're in December, and if you work in an office or wherever, there's a lot of Christmas parties, and you're told to come. And for approval from your manager, from your colleagues, you don't want them to say, oh, he's extreme. So you feel like, although you know it's wrong, you feel like, nah, I need to go. I need to make sure that they don't look at me in that way. So about your niyyah, and then also your compromise, and how did you deal with that?
So I think when I came to Islam, it was like a new journey. It was like I was a newborn baby. So everything I learned, I was so happy to tell all my friends, basically. So I remember I learned like Qul Huwallahu Ahad, and I was so happy to tell. I was like, bro, I just learned a new chapter of the Quran, you know. And the brothers are like, bro, I know like this many juz of Quran, you know. But you know, may Allah guide him. This wasn't apparent in his actions. Do you know what I mean? So it was kind of like, I was kind of shocked that this brother knew so much Quran, but I couldn't like see it in his actions. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So it was like, why? And it was like, you know, because my family was really strict. So it was like, you know, he felt the need to kind of, his perception of Islam was, it was a strict religion. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So in terms of like, you know, that I feel like there's an inferiority complex within the Muslim community where like, as Muslims, we feel like we have to show that we can still have fun. We have to show that we can still participate in certain things even though we're Muslim. But being a Muslim is unique. So the things that make you a Muslim are unique. Do you understand? You can't kind of compromise that. And I feel like I'm always questioning my intentions, you know, because you have to question your intentions. You know, intentions is important. But I feel like there is a sense of, you know, compromising our deen to fit in with those that we're surrounded with. And I think that kind of comes back to the point of good companions, because you're not going to feel like you have to compromise your deen with good companions. You can still be yourself, you can still be a Muslim. But if you're in environments, always remember that, you know, it's better to please Allah and displease those around you than to please those around you and displease Allah. Yeah. So I think, it's kind of like, I try my best to, you know, for example, alhamdulillah, I started a new job, and, you know, the first thing they wanted to do was to take me out for a drink, celebrate a drink. So I didn't kind of want to go in there and be like, oh, I'm a Muslim. I wanted it to be organic, you know what I mean? So kind of show them that I have banter and that beforehand, And then obviously they asked me to take me out for a drink. I'm like, I don't really drink. They was like, why don't you drink? I said, oh, I'm a Muslim. And I was like, oh, okay, so, we went to a restaurant instead kind of thing. But I think, it's important to remember that for me, my approach was, Allah has blessed me with this career. So now He's blessed me with this career. I can't be ungrateful to Him by pleasing those that don't even understand my deen. My advice would be, don't compromise your deen to please those who don't even understand your deen. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Because I think there's a hadith that, the deen started as something strange and it will go back to being something strange. So give glad tidings to the strangers. Yeah.
Shiehk, I'm back on the point. You want to wrap up?
I've spoken too much.
We don't want you to stop talking.
I've spoken too much. I think the only way that you can wrap up is forget the speech of man and end with the speech of the Lord of man. Kalamullah. Do you agree? Yes. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وقال الذين لا يرجون لقاءنا لولا أنزل علينا الملائكة أو نرى ربنا لقد استكبروا في أنفسهم وعتوا عتوا كبيرا يوم يرون الملائكة لا بشرى يومئذ للمجرمين ويقولون حجرا محجورا وقدمنا إلى ما عملوا من عمل فجعلناه هباء منثورا أصحاب الجنة يومئذ خير مستقرا وأحسن مقيلا ويوم تشقق السماء بالغمام ويوم تشقق السماء بالغمام ونزل الملائكة تنزيلا الملك يومئذ الحق للرحمن وكان